I've had this Mossery sketchbook since December of last year, and I've only actually started working in it since I want to say June of this year, so I really haven't gotten super far in this sketchbook, and there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is I'm using so many different sketchbooks right now. I'm working between probably like 5 or 6 sketchbooks, very on and off between all of them, so it's taking me a while to actually get through sketchbooks. And on top of that, I kind of avoid the sketchbook because I've said it before, but like this paper was such a disappointment. But I'm like slightly determined at the very least in this moment to kind of progress through this sketchbook and hopefully finish it within the next 6 or so months, really just depending on how much sketchbook work I'll be doing, because as of lately, I actually have not been doing hardly any sketchbook work at all. I've been doing like little thumbnails and stuff like that, especially in this sketchbook, because I've been trying to fill up the pages, and I just feel like it's a lot of wasted potential for this sketchbook. But like, man, I've ragged on this sketchbook a little bit in a previous video when I used it, and I'm sure I'll go more into depth and have a much more rounded opinion on it when it comes time to actually do a sketchbook tour of this. But the Mossery sketchbook paper, specifically the mixed media paper, because that's what this one is, was such a surprising disappointment. If you haven't seen my other video where I kind of dipped into the subject of this, it just straight up does not handle any kind of wet media at all. It handles watercolor so insanely poorly compared to any other mixed media paper I've ever used, and I'm a huge fan of using the water-based Tombow markers. It also really just does not handle those, which for a mixed media paper, like, yes, I understand some mixed media papers are not super heavy duty, and especially with wet media like watercolors, of course the paper is going to buckle. Even with really nice watercolor paper, with certain varieties, even if you stretch the paper, it's still gonna buckle, and that's something I'm 100% okay with. Like, that's fine. I don't mind at all. I kind of like, especially in sketchbooks, when the pages are buckled, just because it adds so much texture and personality to the look of the sketchbook when it's closed. But this paper, I've never experienced it before, especially with a mixed media paper where when you put watercolors on it, the watercolors will literally bleed to the back side of the sheet you're working on, similar to how alcohol markers do. And I like, oof, it's so bad. It's so insane. Like, as soon as you put down water-based media, it dries immediately, which provides really like gross textures and the inability to do nice, smooth, flat washes. Like, I really, when it comes to mixed media paper, I really don't expect it to perform anywhere close to watercolor paper. I don't expect it to necessarily be the best paper for watercolors or like handle them super well. But this has been the worst mixed media paper I've ever used. And I was like, cool, I guess I can't use watercolors. Never experienced this before on mixed media paper. So I was like, well, I'll use my Tombow markers, which the ones I use, like I mentioned before, are water-based Tombow markers. This paper can't even do those. It's so frustrating. With the water-based pens I use, it straight up starts deteriorating the paper as soon as I layer anything more than once, which, again, like, I would understand if it was like sketch paper or like thinner paper, but it's mixed media paper and you'd think it would actually be able to hold at least like some semblance of a wet media. I haven't used gouache on it. I don't even dare. I haven't used acrylics on it, but like, same thing. Like, I'm so scared with the concept of like, watercolors bleed through this paper. Can it really handle much else? Like, I'm sure acrylics would go down on this paper. It would probably ruin the other side of the sheet, but at least the nice thing with acrylics is once you have one dried layer on there, you're pretty much good to go. But like, man, this paper is rough. But the mediums it is actually able to handle are for sure colored pencils and alcohol markers. So those are what I'm using in this video today, because I just kind of wanted to first and foremost play around in my sketchbook, because I've been doing a lot of finished pieces lately, which I'm super happy with and I've been having a lot of fun doing. But today specifically, I was really itching to just sit down and just kind of like mindlessly doodle something in my sketchbook, something just for fun. I wasn't really particularly concerned with how it turned out. And that was a very nice session for me, because I haven't been doing a ton of art lately as a whole, and what I have been doing is like full finished pieces, which I'm super immensely grateful for it. Like, I feel like it is such a step in the right direction for my own, like, art experience, but sometimes it's nice to just do something super casual and work in my sketchbook. So it was really fun sitting down and doing these illustrations. I haven't been playing a whole lot of Genshin Impact lately, but I still wanted to draw some of the characters from it, especially Goro, because his design is so pretty. I feel like a lot of the time when I'm drawing things from my own imagination, the clothing especially is something that really lacks any kind of semblance of like originality and stuff that stands out, and like, I don't know, it feels very boring, and I tend to like stay in the realm of the same things over and over again. So drawing Genshin characters specifically has been such a nice change of pace in that sense, because while it does take absolutely forever to actually draw out the character designs of Genshin characters, it's a really nice change of pace, and like the actual drawings of them, I feel like there's more eye-catching aspects of the design because their designs are so complex. And at the same time, like especially for drawing Goro, I just went off of a reference picture. I really didn't change anything about it other than drawing it in my own style. So it was really nice and just like relaxing sketchbook work. And then for the Chongyang painting, I just kind of went in with alcohol markers. I'm still a huge fan of the Arteza Everblend markers, both the ones with the bullet nib as well as the ones with the brush nib that they kind of recently released. And I've kind of played around with this like blocky chiseling shapes out like approach to alcohol markers, where I just start in with a really pastel color and kind of build what I want to do and slowly go in and define details with darker and darker colors. And it's such a fun way to play with alcohol markers, because especially when I first started getting into alcohol markers, that was very much so the like fine liner, do your finished line work illustration, and then afterwards color with markers, which like mind you is a very straightforward and like standard approach to that, but it's really nice kind of going backwards with those steps and starting with really pastels and building up values. It's also very loose, and if I make a mistake, it's just like, well, it was sketchbook work, so it doesn't really matter, and it's just a really fun approach to it. It makes everything look a lot softer, especially when not going in with like blacks or fine liners or anything like that, and it was just really fun to kind of play around with. Seeing this spread all together has really kind of like reinvigorated my want to do some kind of sketchbook zine in the future though. It's something I've always kind of wanted to do, but especially like with starting off with my online store, it's definitely something that I will have to get outsourced. I guess technically I could manufacture that at home by just like printing it and either binding it or like stapling it or something, but in theory I'd want it to be like a super nice like little zine that's like air quotes professionally done. You can definitely do professional things at home, but I'd want it to be manufactured elsewhere. But as I'm kind of dipping my toes into getting products outsourced and just adding new stuff to my online store as a whole, I think a sketchbook zine is something that I would really like to accomplish in the next year or so. Like I feel like that's a very realistic thing that I would be able to accomplish within 2022. I think that's a very realistic thing to expect of myself, and something that, like, all things considered, would not be super hard to put together, I hope. I've already kind of looked into, in the past, putting together a sketchbook zine, just in the sense of, like, finding different manufacturers, getting sample packs from them. I already have a manufacturer that I know I would like to get it done through. It's pretty affordable, and they sent samples, so I know it's like really good quality, but like it's definitely not something that I'm going to like have to do pre-orders of anything of. Like I should just be able to order the books and have them. So that's my personal goal for myself. I think it would be really fun to do some kind of like compilation of sketchbook works zine, maybe do one for like based off of the years, so like a 2021, a 2020. I don't know if I want to delve that far back into my own artwork and do like a 2019 one. Maybe, but that would be really pushing it for myself, because I don't know how much I'm still attached to and still like my artwork from 2019. That feels like a very long time ago. I know my art has changed so much just in 2021. My art style, like my progression in my artwork has changed so much, so we'll see. But that's definitely something I want to do. That's definitely something that like I can do. So look forward to that, I guess. But thank you guys so much as always for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.